What's going on, guys? My name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode of the Forgotten Race Review. Today, at the request of Mr. Trey Rath, we'll be covering the Wayang. I think I'm saying that right. It might be Wayang, it might be Wayang, but after a little bit of research, I've found Wayang to be the pronunciation, and so that is the pronunciation that we'll be sticking with. If you have any requests for this series or any other series this channel does, as always, throw them in the comments below and we'll add them to the list. Recently, the support for Black Dragon Gaming has been exploding. And of course, with that means the request line is exploding as well. So the Forgotten Race review might take a little while, but hey, we'll get there eventually. Don't forget, guys, our Doomsday Dawn adventure playthrough giveaway is live right now. We wanted to get to 424 subscribers to run it. We're at 699 right now, which makes me realize that 848 subscribers. Our next giveaway may be right around the corner before this one even finishes, which is huge. Thank you guys so much out there for the support. It means the world. Now we just need to get our Patreon up to like $150 a month, so yours truly can take a day off work and run you and 5 of your fellow subscribers through the first ever published piece of material for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. If you'd like to hear more about our giveaway, you can follow this card right here, and as always, of course, our Patreon link is in the description. Speaking of patronage, today's episode of the Forgotten Race Review was brought to you in part by the Inn of Planar Crossroads. Guys, as always, thank you so much for all your time and support and your friendship. Now, let's dive in. Oh, by the way, before we dive in, the Wayang has appeared in a lot of places throughout Pathfinder, most recently in Pathfinder's splat book, Blood of Shadows. In Southeast Asia, Wayang is a form of puppet theater where a dramatic story is told with the occasional human actor, mostly shadow puppets. Its origins can be traced all the way back to the spread of Hinduism in the medieval era and the arrival of leather-based puppets from southern India. Wayang refers to the entire dramatic show, but sometimes the puppet itself is referred to as a Wayang. Traditionally, a Wayang is played out in a ritualized midnight to dawn show by a Dalong, an artist and spiritual leader. People are also known to watch the show from both sides of the screen. In Pathfinder, the Wayangs are a race of small supernatural humanoids who trace their ancestry to the plane of shadows. They're extremely gaunt with pixie-like stature and skin the colors of deep shadow. These guys follow a philosophy known as the dissolution, which teaches that in passing, they may again merge into shadow. They readily express their belief through ritual, scarification, and skin bleaching, marking their bodies with raised white dots in ornate spirals and geometric patterns. These guys live in small, interdependent tribes and rarely associate with outsiders. Wayang history has been stained with sorrow since the end of the Age of Darkness, when the sun's return dissolved the interplanar corridors their kind used to trespass on Galerion from the Shadow Plane. Present day, these guys are by and large trapped on the material plane, mostly in Tiansha, and by and large these guys work on Galerion by night only to scurry away to hidden villages when the sun rises. Despite centuries of existence in their new home, Wayangs still think of themselves as creatures of shadow, and some are still able to hear the faint whispers of shadowy patrons present in their original home. Most Wayangs are content to endure until the day they join their ancestors in endless night, but others are drawn to leave their communities in exploration of the bright unknown, and some speculate that that means they might be following the otherworldly call that brought the first Wayangs to Galerion millennia ago. So here's the thing I'm going to add onto the Forgotten Race review before we dive down into the mechanical stuff. A Wayang reaches adulthood at 40 years. Males range in height from 3 foot tall to about 3 foot 8, with females being slightly shorter. They both weigh around 30 pounds. They reach middle age around 100 years old, and your Wayang's maximum age is 200 plus 1 percentage dice years. Of course, these rules are optional, but I also think these rules are extremely flavorful, and I feel kind of remiss for just realizing now, like 36 weeks in, that I should be sharing them with you guys. Moving forward, they'll always be here. Now, with no further ado, let's dive into the character sheet. Wayangs get a +2 to their dexterity and intelligence, but suffer a -2 to their wisdom. They're nimble and cagey, but their perception of the world is clouded by shadows. They are humanoids with the Wayang subtype, size category small, with a base speed of 20 feet. Wayangs get a +2 racial bonus on saving throws against spells of the Shadow subschool, and Wayangs receive a +2 racial bonus on perception and stealth checks. One of those is definitely the most rolled skill in Pathfinder. The other one's probably a close second depending on what game you're playing. Super solid. Wayangs add +1 to the DC of any saving throws against spells of the Shadow subschool that they cast. Wayangs with a charisma score of 11 or higher also gain the following spell-like abilities: Once a Day, Ghost Sound, Pass Without Trace, and Ventriloquism. Super flavorful for the race that's based off of a puppet. The caster level for these effects is equal to the Wayang's level, the DC being 10 plus the spell's level plus the Wayang's charisma. Wayangs have dark vision out to 60 feet and have a racial trait known as Light and Dark. Once per day, as an immediate action, a Wayang can treat positive and negative energy effects as if they were undead, which means positive energy would hurt them and negative energy would heal them. Now, I've never played a Wayang before. I've never really thought about them, or really even the Plane of Shadow in most of my games. But if I were to play one, I think I would grab the alternate racial trait, Disillusioned Child. We trade out Shadow Magic for a once per day ability that allows us to change our appearance to look as if we were little more than a 4-foot tall area of shadow. Our physical form still exists, and we're not incorporeal. Basically, it works like invisibility for a maximum of 5 rounds. That's good for anybody who needs to get out of a place quickly. Sure, maybe the rogue doesn't need it or the wizard doesn't need it, but the barbarian who needs to suddenly disappear and turn the corner never to be seen again for 5 rounds until he's healed himself and is raging and back in the fight. Okay, yeah, that's super great. If I were to play a Wayang, also, I think I'd play the Shadow thing up pretty hard. Just memorize all the Shadow Evocation and Shadow Conjuration spells you possibly can, and spam them at the bad guys. If we keep Shadow Magic, they become harder and harder to disbelieve, and thus become all the more powerful and flexible. To tack on even more, the favored class bonus for a Wayang Sorcerer allows us to add half a point of damage to any illusion spell of the Shadow subschool cast by the Sorcerer. So if we play something like a cross-blooded sorcerer and do the Orc Draconic thing, and we're adding +2 to damage per die rolled, we can stack on an additional 1/2. So at level 20, that's +2 to every die rolled, +10 for every greater Shadow Evocation fireball that we throw at somebody's face. And that's not bad at all. You know who else really likes Shadow Magic? The Shadow Dancer Prestige class. And you're already small, which means you have a bonus to your stealth checks because you're small, and your dexterity is buffed, so this might be right up a Shadow Dancer's alley. Now, speaking of that, a Wayang NPC is probably trying to stay as far away from the party as possible, unless they're a bunch of Wayangs or fetchlings or something crazy like that. And since they live in secretive communities, the rationality exists there that there are Wayangs out there that protect those communities from interlopers. Your party goes and explores a jungle in Tian Sha, or whatever the equivalent in your setting is. They camp for the night, and they are suddenly awoken by all of these little gray dudes popping out of the shadows with daggers, shanking everybody left and right. On the other side of that, a Wayang might serve as a great emissary to the Plane of Shadow, since they have such a connection to the place, since they think they turn into shadows when they die. I'm sure for a nominal fee, they'd be happy to guide the party around the Plane of Shadow. On that note though, also, it's probably a fun role-playing moment to expose the Wayang PC to a bunch of shadows because they're incorporeal and dead. Oh look, there's my family! Oh look, your strength score's at 0, PC. Haha! Really though, shadows are deadly. Use them with caution. So what do you guys think about the Wayang? Have you ever used them before? Have you ever played one? Or have you ever journeyed into the Plane of Shadow in Pathfinder or in any other setting? As always, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos. The next episode of the Forgotten Race review, where we cover the Vishkanya, drops next Monday.